Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, October 21st. We're getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up giving out a World Series future on the series spread, as we ended up taking the Dodgers minus 1.5 games at minus 110 on FanDuel. So far, so good. Dodgers won game 1, 8-3, kind of exactly how I thought the series would play out. I know there's still a long way to go, but I did mention the fact that the Rays have simply struggled to score runs on a repeated basis, and they only scored 3 runs. They gave up 8. I said if the Dodgers scored 5, they'll probably win about 80% of the time. And the Rays simply relied too much on solo home runs, and the Dodgers were able to manufacture runs by stealing bases, hitting singles, and even throwing in some home runs as well. That overall has looked pretty good, but hopefully the Dodgers will be able to take care of business once again on Wednesday to open up a 2-0 series lead. But for today's play of the day, I know that there's only baseball on the card once again because there is no college football this Wednesday. However, there really aren't many lines up for Game 2. You do have, of course, the spread and the total, but there really isn't much else. You don't really have any team totals, etc. So for that reason, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. We're going to be looking ahead to the Thursday night football game in the NFL, and then on Thursday, we'll be looking at either the UFC card or we'll be looking at something over the weekend. But for the play of the day, we're going to be looking at the Thursday night game between the Eagles and the Giants. And for this play, we're going to be going with the props. It's going to be the touchdown prop once again that we had about 2 weeks ago, I'd say, when we ended up taking the Seahawks, etc. on that one for the total touchdowns over. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the Eagles over 2.5 touchdowns at minus 110 on DraftKings, a time recording of 2:12 a.m. Eastern Time. And a couple reasons why I like the over 2.5 touchdowns in this spot. First of all, the line itself makes no sense in comparison to the team total. So you are actually picking up a tremendous amount of value right now. DraftKings currently has the team total set at 23.5. Now, if you're doing the math at home, if the total points for the Eagles is 23.5 and they do not score 2.5 touchdowns, that means that they have 14 points from touchdowns followed by 4 field goals. That's the only way you can get there unless you have a 2-point conversion. So bare minimum, you have 3 field goals involved. However, you can simply just take the Eagles over 2.5 touchdowns. You could save roughly 2 points or so, 2.5 points on the team total comparison to the touchdowns with the extra points, assuming that 3 touchdowns get you 21. Plus, the team total for the Eagles at 23.5 is minus 112, and the total touchdowns is minus 110. So you're actually paying less for the touchdowns when the odds of cashing the touchdowns are significantly higher than the odds of cashing the team total. So the whole thing makes no sense. I expect DraftKings to definitely adjust some of those lines in the over the next day or two. But as of right now, over 2.5 touchdowns from a value perspective is a really solid deal at minus 110 on DraftKings. I saw FanDuel had the same prop available at roughly minus 123, so you're already picking up 10 plus cents there. Plus, if you want to actually look at the Eagles' offense, even though they have been a bit inconsistent when it comes to the offensive line play, and I will concede that notion, it is worth mentioning the Eagles have scored at least 3 touchdowns in each of the last 3 games. I know one of them was a bit fortunate against San Francisco as they had a pick 6, but they faced off against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, 2 of the more impressive defenses in the league, and they scored at least 3 touchdowns, or 4 touchdowns actually, in each of those games. So they have been playing really well offensively lately, and now they face off against a Giants team that has been okay defensively. But if you want to really base it on comparisons against good teams, they have kind of struggled. The Rams' offense is a little bit inconsistent, so I'm not really sure what to think of them as they got shut down over the weekend against the 49ers. Giants only gave up 2 touchdowns in that game. But other than that, though, they ended up giving up a bunch of touchdowns to the 49ers B team earlier in the year. Against Dallas, they gave up 37 points, and Andy Dalton played roughly 3/4 of that game. And the Eagles, who have played well offensively against the Steelers and the Ravens, I think should be able to score at least 3 touchdowns here against the Giants. It is also worth mentioning that even though the Eagles have been dealing with a ton of injuries on both sides of the ball all season long, Miles Sanders will not be playing. Zach Ertz will not be playing. However, it is worth mentioning that Deshaun Jackson is expected to return, as he should provide a bit of a spark to the receiving corps, as he is the deep threat. And you also potentially might be getting the return of Alshon Jeffrey. He's been limited for about, 3 weeks in practice, and he's still not playing, so I wouldn't bank on him. But Lane Johnson was limited in practice after missing last week's game with an ankle injury, which is very important because the Eagles' offensive line has been very, very injury-riddled throughout the entire season. So overall, you have Lane Johnson coming back. Carson Wentz has looked pretty sharp over the last couple of weeks based on the circumstances, and Deshaun Jackson is coming back to provide a little deep threat, which the Eagles don't have, and that should provide a nice complement to Fulgham on the outside. But looking at the Giants, they're giving up 25.7 points per game. They're really not a great defensive team whatsoever. Plus, Daniel Jones is still averaging over a turnover per game, so there is a chance that the Eagles could start off with some short fields if Daniel Jones end up fumbling the ball or throwing interceptions, etc. And defensive touchdowns also count, which is also another reason why it's a good prop. But the value itself makes no sense. This prop should be somewhere around minus 130, potentially even higher. I'm sure offshore, usually the touchdowns are around minus 140, minus 150. But at minus 110 for the Eagles to score 3 touchdowns, that is a tremendous deal, and that's going to be the play of the day. So the play of the day, once again, here for Wednesday, October 21st, is going to be on the Eagles over 2.5 touchdowns, which is available on DraftKings at minus 110. That's been the Stallman Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.